Killing it. Welcome into this week's episode of the Young Dad Podcast. I'm Jay, and not with us today is co-captain of the ship, Aaron. He got wrapped into a family thing that he didn't even know about right before it was time to go tonight. So we are joined with our guest of the evening, Nick. Nick, how the heck are you, man?
I'm good, man. Hanging out on the West Coast. We had some good weather finally today, so can't complain.
West Coast. Some say best coast, but we live here, so we know. No, the weather's been great out on this side finally, especially in California. You guys kind of got rid of the rain finally, huh?
Yeah, I keep telling everybody I pay these high taxes as a weather tax, and then it rains for what felt like 40 days straight.
I'm pretty sure it did. Like, isn't Lake Mead like filled back up again?
uh, all I know is the drought is down to like 8% of the state, where it was like
Dang, it was up.
80% of the
Yeah, it was
state.
crazy. It was up there.
So I guess
Yeah.
it's a
So if
good
you're
thing.
not, yeah, if you're not familiar with the West Coast, California doesn't get snow except up in the high mountains and like desert areas, but they can get rain, and they have gotten a lot of rain while everywhere else has been getting snow. Still into late March. Like Idaho's still getting snow, Colorado, all these places still getting snow.
Yeah, I'm over it though. I'm ready for
I'm
some
so
sunshine.
over all the cold weather. Bring it on. All right. Well, now that we talked about the weather, welcome into the show, everybody. Nick, go ahead and tell us a little bit about you here. You know, the intro said that Bluey's dad wants to be you. And, you know, just I gave the people a little introduction of you in the intro, but you tell us about you and a little bit about what you do and why you do it.
Sure, yeah. Thanks for having me. I'm a dad, just like most of your listeners, I'm sure. Love being a dad. Document a lot of it on my Instagram at dadding greatly, dadding with two D's. I have a 9-year-old son, 6-year-old daughter. Um, yeah, they're at a pretty good sweet spot right now where my son is really starting to take like an athletic hold on things and starting to
Ooh,
show just like this crazy athletic. I don't want to go overboard and say prowess, but man, he's at 9. He's already
ability,
better than I am. And my
right?
daughter's in this like really lovey-dovey. Like she told me today, I'm her soulmate.
Oh,
It's she's just freaking adorable. So I'm in like this sweet spot of life right now. It's pretty amazing.
yeah, no, it's so cool when especially when daughters, they get around 5, 6, because their whole little like love chart is all developed in their heads.
Yeah.
You know, well, that's kids in general, but for girls, it's awesome. My daughter's 5, and like she has her whole little love chart and like who she loves, who she doesn't love when she doesn't love them. I'm one of those people already. Um, when she gets in trouble, I don't love you, but no, that's a sweet spot. And you know, I saw your pictures that you posted with your son the other day. You know, 5 straight opening days. It looks like.
Yeah, so we have a little opening day baseball tradition. We're a big baseball family. Like I said, he's just so stupid good at baseball already. And we just kind of started this little opening day tradition 5 years ago. Snapped
Mm-hmm.
a little selfie mode, him in his jersey, me in my matching hat. I buy the hat or I get the hat if I coach.
God,
Um,
definitely.
and we just kind of unknowingly kept it rolling, and then I think last year it was like, all right, this is a tradition, we have to keep it now. So
Gotta keep going.
this year got a little wonky. Our opening day got rained out, and
Three
then
times?
our first two games got rained out.
Oh, dang.
So we finally had our first game this last Saturday, and we were so caught up in like just finally getting out there and getting to play that afterwards it was like an hour later, and I was running an errand, and I called back to the house and I was like, wait, don't let him take his uniform off, we got to do the tradition.
Wait.
so so
No,
he's
I
like,
love
oh
that.
come on, I want to change.
Dad, you're killing me.
So
No, that's awesome. I'm going into my second year. I'm also a big baseball family, as the listeners know. I mean, hence the ball boy media and everything I post over there on the website. But you know, going to my second year with my oldest in t-ball, and she loves it. She has so much fun playing. I love coaching her, coaching her teams. I coached last year, and whatnot. And I have the exact same photo as you from last year.
Nice.
The opening day doesn't come for us for a couple more weeks because we're the lowest level, but it's a ton of fun. It's so much fun, you know, taking these pictures, remembering those memories, and it's so much fun to see him grow and develop athletically. Like my daughter last year, she just there's some things that she's still working on. Obviously, I mean she's
Right.
5. I put her in t-ball a second year for a reason,
Hmm.
um, which I think all parents should. You know, if your kid's not there yet and you know where the other kids are at that level normally, you need to hold them back. You know, hold them back so that they have fun playing still.
Oh, absolutely
Um,
agree.
that's super important. But even this year, you know, she's taken just naturally. She hits off a tee, and now she's just not rolling over on it. It's actually getting some distance. And the other parents on the team, she's the only girl on the team this year. Last year we had 2 girls, but this year she's the only girl. And the other parents at practice the other day were like, "Wow, she hits so well. Whoa, she's really good at hitting." And I was like, you know, coach's kid, whatever.
Right.
A little
Like, do
proud,
a
you know,
little collar pop there.
a little bit.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't,
she
you
is
know,
pretty good.
I wonder who's her coach.
I don't know if it's coaching or genetics or both.
Probably both, honestly. I mean, you know, but no, that's it's so awesome to see just them develop. I mean, 9, he's probably playing what, like minors, some level in minors now, right?
Yeah, so here it's AAA.
Okay, yep.
So this is the first full year of kid pitch. Last year was a little weird. It was like there was no walks. So if a kid pitcher got to 4 balls, then the coach would come in and kind of finish out strikes.
Oh, that's so weird.
Yeah, so if he got to like a 4-1 count, he would get 2 balls pitched to him. Um, as many strikes as you had left, and that was it. You hit those or you're out. And this
That's
year it's
so
like
dumb.
real baseball, like kids
Yeah.
pitch. There's lots of walks. So we lost our season opener 11-10, and we actually no hit the other team. We
Wait,
just
what?
we just walked them that many times.
Yeah, I think it's teaching a kid to pitch is hard. Like teaching kids like how to like pitch
Yeah.
at any age is hard. Like I coached my first year coaching was in Arizona. That's when my daughter was like 2 or 3, and I was teaching the not teaching. I was coaching the oldest level of kids. Like these are like junior hires, like
Hmm.
some kids that didn't make the freshman team at the high school were at this level, and they just the reason I got put at this spot is because I pitched, you know, all the way through high school. Got recruited to pitch D3 before an elbow injury, so I know how to pitch.
Hmm.
And start if they want to learn how to pitch, start them early. Like we start ours like I want to say ours start at like 7 or 8 is when the kids start pitching here in our league,
Okay.
and they just pitch. You know, there's no coach that comes in. They just pitch and they learn how to pitch and they get the reps and they get the throws. And at that level, everyone's going to pitch because you have pitch counts,
Yeah. Yep.
and it's fun. It's part of it. It's fun. Losing's part of it.
For sure. Yeah. Pitching's
So
challenging though. It's we've watched every single one of our pitchers uh do this weird regression thing where they all throw really hard, and if they're playing catch, they'll hit a guy right in the chest, glove, in the chest. But then you get them pitching, and it's like they suddenly start doing this. I'm not just playing catch with the catcher anymore. I'm doing this weird aim thing, and it's like shot putty, and it's like, what are we doing? Just throw like you throw. But they get
yeah,
in their head and they
exactly.
start to. It's this whole concept of aiming for an imaginary box that just completely messes them up.
Exactly. It's hard because that's exactly what you hear. That's what we heard when we were kids. You know, you're just playing catch with the catcher.
Yep.
I still did that in high school where I would warm up and, you know, I'd be hitting him in the chest during warm ups. He would slowly crouch down a little bit. And I keep hitting him. And then all of a sudden I'm actually pitching and it was downhill. There was one time I didn't get to go into a game when I was warming up because when my catcher crouched, I was so all over the place. I didn't get put into the game.
Oh, brutal.
It was rough,
Yeah.
but then we
Yeah.
lost that game, and it was like, well, guess it didn't matter anyways.
Yeah, it wasn't my fault.
Wasn't my fault that time, even though when we lost in the semifinals to get into the state tournament, that one was my fault. I gave up like 3 walks in a row.
Ah,
That was rough. That was when I had my elbow injury before I knew it.
okay. See, I'm the kind of guy that's always like, oh well, the offense should have scored more. It's never one
Exactly.
dude's fault.
No, it's a whole collaborative team. I think it's even harder when kids are trying to hit, you know, because you want them to swing a certain way, you want them to engage their bodies, you want them to move a certain way. But for like at my level, I love when a parent tries to yell to the kid, "You're a righty, you're a lefty," and they're holding the bat the opposite way, and I just go with it. I ignore that parent.
Yeah, yeah,
Let your kids do it natural. Back when I was a kid, I was told to throw over the top. That's kind of not really pushed as hard anymore.
yeah. You see
Throw.
a lot more like 3/4 arm throws
Yeah.
now.
And that's how I was throwing like my whole life. And I'm pretty sure that's what happened to my elbow was I had a coach in high school that was like, "You're tall, you got length, you got to come over the top." And so I'm trying to throw a way that didn't match with my body and it
Hmm.
didn't make sense. And I was like, I'm pretty sure that's what led to my elbow injury. Also being like way overused because I was the only lefty on the team. And so
Yeah,
I would have low pitch counts, but I would pitch more often.
yeah. You're probably pitching every day, every other day.
Yeah, I'm pitching a ton,
It's like, oh well, he
and
only
it's
threw 18 pitches. It's like, well, 18 times 5
3
games this week.
plus a bullpen in between sometimes
Yeah,
just to, make it so I tossed a little bit softer depending on who was starting in front of me.
yep.
Um, it was, oh, it was rough. It was rough. I'm not going to blame my coaches for my injury because my coaches were awesome um, that year in high school, but it didn't
Nice.
help.
Yeah, I'm already kind of worried for my son. I have 2 older brothers. My dad, both older brothers, and I have all torn rotator cuffs. It's just
Oof.
like genetically we have terrible shoulders.
Yeah.
So I'm like, he's 9, and every time he throws more than 40 pitches, I'm like, okay, shut it down.
Pull them, pull them.
And then he sits for a week,
Gotta
please.
go. Oh, that's the rough part is that they sit for days on end
Yeah,
and they just have to play the field and hit. And by the time they get up, their arms still probably just stiff at that point because
yeah,
they can't really throw in practice either
yeah,
because the rules are so strict.
yeah. It can be a little challenging. They're on a pretty strict pitch count in this league.
Yeah, that's just Little League Baseball right now is because they're trying to protect the players' arms. But I don't know. But one thing with that is that no matter what level you're throwing at, once you get to a hard baseball, it's the same weight throughout for the rest of your life.
Yeah, yeah, I can
The
see that.
weight doesn't change, and that's one thing that I think personally like should happen is like we need to change the weight of these baseballs
Hmm.
for kids, like little kids, change the weights a little bit and build up to that 5-6 ounce baseball. I think it's 5 or 6 ounces now that pros use, but build up to that as they get older. Once they get to high school, then they should be using these comparable
Standard,
baseballs.
yeah.
But when they're in like elementary school and whatnot, maybe throw them a little 2-3 ounce ball. Let them build.
Right, exactly. I
Let
think we
them
started using the
grow.
standard ball last year when he was
Mm-hmm.
8. When he was 7, there was definitely like that like softer, squishier ball.
Yeah, the compression ball.
Yeah, but I think he was with the standard ball at 8.
Yeah, I think that's right. So it's just that's my thoughts on it is cut the weight back a little bit for little leaguers
Yeah, it's
and then go
interesting.
standard a little bit later. That's my take on it. But we could go on and on about baseball and sports and whatnot, but it's that's so cute that your daughter you're her soulmate. That's cute. That's cute. I bet the wife was a little upset about that.
Oh, say that part again.
Oh, was the wife a little jealous of that?
If she is, she's doing a pretty good job hiding it. But I I'm trying to kind of train my daughter lately, like, hey, like you don't have to like reduce the amount of love. This is great, but like maybe include mom too. She's like, so now she'll whisper sometimes like, I don't want to tell you this in front of mom. You're my favorite. And I'm like, yeah, that's a good call not to tell that in front of mom. Like that will definitely hurt her feelings.
That happens with
So
girls, though. That happens with girls. Like, mine went through that, around like 2, 3. So it was like, he's cooler.
yeah, I think it's
I like him
I
more.
think it's like a comfort thing because my son does it too. It's like he wants to, like hypothetically, he wants to do everything with me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he wants to fish. He wants me to coach his baseball team, but like he gets mad at me a lot quicker, and he'll immediately go to mom for comfort. So, and bedtime rolls around, he wants mom to put him to bed. She wants me to put her to bed every night. Um, so
Mommy's boy and a daddy's girl.
yeah, I mean, I think it just comes to that like security blanket, like comfort feeling.
I think you're right. I think you're right. That makes sense because it's just like, who's there? Who do I connect with more? That's not always the case. I mean, sometimes it could be switched, or maybe he'll come around and be like,
Yeah,
or who knows? Who knows?
yeah. I mean, we definitely have our things. Like, my son and I have sports and wrestling and like the rugged stuff, and then he turns to her for like the hand holding and the bedtime and the hugs and the back
Yeah.
rubs. And then same with my daughter. She goes to my wife for the ponytails and the braids and the clothes
That
and the I suck at it. I haven't even honestly tried. I
oh, you got to get up on the hair stuff. It's honestly fun. I mean, maybe I'm biased because I have two girls and I'm a single parent half the time. When I have them, so 100% of the time when I have them, I'm a single parent. But you know, the hair's fun. It's like they're just standing there. You get to talk to them and
yeah.
brush their hair and connect with them and laugh and stuff. I would tell you to try it. She might hate it. Um, Pro tip: start from the bottom of the hair, like
So
the
so
end of the hair.
brushing I got it down. Like the
Yeah,
post
brushing
bath
perfect.
time brush is like
That's the brush. That's the
that's her
time to
jam
brush.
right there. But the like braids and the ponytails, I suck. And I know it's one of those like shame on me. I know better. I should
No, not at
try.
all.
I
If
don't
you
even know.
try it, just tell her we're gonna have a crazy hair day today.
Right?
We're gonna have a
Because
crazy dad hair day.
yeah, you're going to go to school and people are going to ask you, "Did your dad do your hair today?"
And you're gonna say yes with pride.
Yeah,
Okay, you're gonna own
exactly.
it. You're gonna say, "Heck yeah, my dad did my hair
You're
today,
going
and
to
he
be
did
like,
great."
"Yes, he did. He's my soulmate."
Don't tell my mom though.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, no, kids are that's the best. That's some of the best parts about being a dad. You have these moments, you get to do these little things with them, and it just turns into just bonding and laughs and smiles, and you know, with daughters, it's so cool. I go on about having daughters. I don't have sons, so what is that like for you having one of each?
Um, it's good. I mean, I definitely love that we have one of each. We had our son, and we almost didn't have a second, and then we were on the fence about having a first. We kind of gave it a year. We were like, if it doesn't happen this year, we're never having kids. And it was a literal calendar year, January 1st to December 31st. And I think she found out she was pregnant December 27th. So
Oh
he like
wow.
really cut it close. Um, and then fast forward, we were talking, well, should we have a second one? Should we not? Are we happy with one? Um, and we said, okay, this one will give 6 months.
Okay.
And I jokingly said, unless my Denver Broncos go to playoffs, then we'll keep trying until they're eliminated. And if they win the Super
Okay.
Bowl, then it'll be a sign that we just have to have a second one.
So that was what, like 2016?
Uh, I see. I'm a piss poor fan for not remembering the year, but it was Super Bowl 50, and the Broncos won the damn thing. And I was like, well, there's our sign. We have to have this second kid.
Yeah, that was
So
okay. 2015.
Yeah, I was gonna say I remember where I was working, so it was either 15 or 16.
Oh, it was February 7th, 2016. So,
There we go. So it was the 15-16 season. So
okay, yeah. And
yeah,
then,
so we had
oh,
our
that was the Panthers. That was Cam Newton's, like, that was his MVP year.
yep, yep. Von Miller sacked him, and he just like fumbled it and didn't even make a. He made that half-assed attempt. Like, nope, I'm not diving on that thing.
Oh, yeah.
And
That was a good
that
game.
was about that. That was kind of the nail in the coffin on that one.
Yeah, that was a
Tried
good
to
game.
tried to name my daughter Peyton,
Didn't
and didn't work out for
didn't
me.
work.
No,
Dang it.
couldn't get the buy-in. I originally
You
said
were
if they win the Super Bowl, we got to name our kid the name of the MVP, but then it was Von Miller, so I was like, Von's going to be a pretty hard name to convince
hard
my
sell.
wife. And then we
Hard
found out we were
sell.
having a daughter, so it was like, Von's definitely not going to work.
Vaughn's off the table.
No, yeah, but yeah, no, it was good. We found out we were having a daughter, and pretty much being already on the fence about the first, and then being more on the fence about the second, and you got the boy and the girl. It was like, that's it, done deal.
That's it. Done.
So we're
Wrap it up.
set. Yeah. And you really do. You get the best of both worlds. I don't want to make anybody jealous that only has boys or only girls, but you get the little man who grows up doing the stereotypical. He's playing all the old school video games that I have saved. So
Heck
we worked
yeah.
our way up. Like I taught him Nintendo, and then we played a little Super Nintendo until he
Heck
got
yeah.
good enough, and we play uh, Nintendo 64 together.
Heck yeah.
And then get to coach his baseball team, and so that's fun. And then you know you have the daughter who loves the princessy stuff, and you always I kind of always said, like, there's all these stereotypical, like, oh, dad and tea time and princess stuff, and that's just in the movies, but it's not, it actually
It's not.
happens.
Nope, it happens. Yep. Yep.
But it's a weirdly fun, like, I think before you have a girl, you're like, there's no way I'm doing that. And then you have a girl and you're
No.
like, put makeup on my face, do it. Like,
Do it.
it would
So okay,
be
I don't
my
do the
greatest
makeup.
honor.
I don't do the makeup. Don't do the makeup personally, but I will let my toes be painted.
There you go. That's something. And
And
it makes them like insanely happy.
makes their whole world complete.
Yeah. So
They're
it's
just so
awesome.
happy.
I feel like just stupidly lucky to have one of each.
No, that's awesome. I mean, that's always a dream. If you're growing up and you want to have kids, you're always thinking, "Oh, I'm gonna have two kids, some Ted Mosby action, boy and girl, Luke and Leia,
Yep.
um, kind of thing." And for me, I have two girls, and I wouldn't trade it at all. Like I love having the two because I still get to do a lot of those things, but it's just with a daughter. I still get to coach little league,
For
and
sure.
I get to play Pokemon with her, and she's into those like Pokemon. She likes some superheroes, not too much, but like she still likes that kind of stuff. My youngest daughter, she's just kind of the vibe captain, I guess. She's just whatever. She
Yeah.
just goes with the flow. She does not care about anything in the world. As long as she's like chilling, she has some food, she has a snack, and you know, a screen's on or some kind of music, she's happy as can be. She
Yeah.
doesn't even care. But she loves to play like kitchen, so she's always making like little. I got her like this little mini Keurig thing at Target.
Okay.
It makes like a sound, has like a little knob on it that like turns, and it makes like a like it's
Nice.
a
Like it's
pouring.
brewing. Yep.
Yeah, like it's brewing coffee. It's so cool. She loves it. So she's always making coffee, and then I got her cupcake. So she's like, "Here's your coffee and your cupcake," and
Nice.
with her 2 year old language that she can use. Um, it's fun. And then when we go to the pool, I have underwater tea time with the older
Nice.
one. We drink tea underwater. That's super.
Yeah.
The exact preferred location to drink tea and coffee eat croissants is underwater at the pool.
That's perfect. Yeah, and these are the
So
type
yeah,
of things that, like, one day she'll be 35 and she'll be telling her kids, like, I remember my dad used to always, every time I go to a pool now, I always think of how my dad and I had underwater tea time.
right.
So, and then that just hits you in the feels.
And then she's calling you and she's like, "Dad, I was talking about you today, and I was
Yep.
telling." the grandkids about this or that, about whatever, and it's like, well, next time I come and see you guys,
Yeah,
that's gonna be
we'll
me.
do
I'm gonna make sure I'm like a block or two away. I'm gonna be like, oh, I'll be over in a little bit. We're gonna take them
right.
to the pool. Let's
We'll
go.
do underwater tea time. Yep, exactly.
I'll show them what underwater tea tie's about.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So no, and that's that's another one of those just great parts on being a dad.
Yeah,
Just do the silly stuff. No one's judging you.
yeah,
No one's
exactly,
judging you.
exactly. That's like I'm gonna totally plug my Instagram right now, but that's
Do
that's
it.
what I try to kind of accomplish, and that's like the whole aim of dadding greatly is you don't have to do this like crazy extravagant stuff to be your kid's hero. Like
Nope.
every fall we do the silliest. Like I convince the kids to rake the leaves with me. They hate raking. But at the end, we have a massive pile and we do our annual leaf pile jumping day. And we spend hours out there jumping in the pile, re raking it, jumping in the pile, re raking it. And now they look forward to it every single year. We have
Yeah.
another tradition of the pumpkins when they get rotten after Halloween. We don't just chuck them in the bin. We like take power tools to them.
Oh,
I'll
that's
like
awesome.
soft toss a piece to my son and he'll hit it with a baseball bat. Like,
Oh, that's awesome.
and it's just silly, like free, cheap stuff that
That's
it's
all it
not putting me
takes.
out. I'm
It's
not going out of
all it
my way to
takes.
do any of this stuff, but they're going to remember this
No.
forever. They ask for it every year. When is pumpkin smashing day? So,
Yeah. No, and that's exactly, the same thing. For me, a lot of that right now is like when with my oldest daughter, we played video games. Like we play, or not video games, but we play like Uno 3, 4 times in a row. You know how tiring it is to play Uno with a 5-year-old 4 times in a row? You probably
yeah,
do.
yeah,
Um, just Uno after Uno, Go Fish or Candyland's a new one. Just the
yep.
same games on repeat, but the cycle. But it's like I might hate my life for the 20 minutes that I'm doing it because it's the 10th time this week I'm doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But I know she's having fun doing it because it's stimulating her mind. A, it's getting her off a freaking screen, which I'm always happy to do.
Yep.
Uh, you know, but it's just a way that there's simple ways out there. There's so many simple ways that you can go about making these memories with your kids. Raking leaves, that's a great one. For me, it's swimming. We do that thing at the gym. I mean, yes, we pay for the gym membership, but we're there so much, like they should be paying us um,
Yeah, it
at
makes it
this
worth
point.
it.
So
Yep.
yeah, you got to make it worth it. And that doesn't take much. Kids are simple. They're very simple. At the end of the day, all they want to do is be loved and heard.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah, I
And if you can
agree.
just show them ways that you love them, it's that easy. It's so easy.
Yeah. I just took up I'm trying to take up fishing.
Okay.
So
I
we
wish Aaron was on the show because he is an avid fisherman.
is he?
Like he
I'll have to
is,
chat with him on offline.
yeah. He's like him and fishing. Like he'll go for hours on end, like by himself. Like that's his thing. It
Yeah,
helps him like
that's
reset a little bit.
that's why I'm trying to get into it. I keep hearing it's super relaxing, even if you don't catch anything. So, but the
Yeah.
kids are like gung ho, like, yeah, if you're in, I'm in. It's like, all right, that's fine. Like, I was thinking of it as a solo kind of recharge thing, but let's do this together, sure. So I took them down to like a little lake, man-made lake this morning.
Hmm.
We got poles, we got them all rigged up, and we tried for like an hour, caught nothing. Came back home, had a birthday party, and then later that afternoon, I was like, "You want to go back and try again? Like, let's talk to the neighbor. He's an avid fisherman too.
Hmm.
Um, he gave us some tips. We went back to the same exact spot, still caught nothing, but we learned like a different trick on casting. And so my
Hmm.
daughter got some serious distance in hers, like twice the distance from just this one
Oh
little
dang.
change.
Okay.
Still caught nothing, caught like sticks, but just the hugest smile plastered on her face
Oh, I
because
bet.
we're fishing with dad and we're catching sticks and she can huck it out there. So it just like made her
Yeah,
whole
and it's just the quality time.
yeah. And we left there and they're like, "Can we come back next weekend?" I'm like, I mean, maybe, yeah.
Maybe.
We'll
We'll
see.
see. Let me check with your mom on the calendar because I don't know what's going on yet.
Yeah, exactly. So,
But no, it's really important for to find those things that you can do with your kids that are just bonding and simple. It's something about being outside, being in nature, being disconnected from everything and away from like the normal like at home stuff because they know what to expect. They know what to expect the books and the toys and everything like that. They don't know what to expect when they cast their line into the water every time. They don't know
yeah.
what they're going to catch. Could they catch a stick? Could they catch a tire? Could they catch a gun? Who knows?
Right.
Um,
I
but no,
mean, even the
it's
variety of fish,
cool.
like you don't know. Supposedly, this lake we went to, there's like three different kinds of fish. So it's like, we catching a bass, we catching a carp. Is it going to be tiny? Is it going to be massive? Like,
Hmm. I
no
don't
idea.
know.
No idea.
No clue.
So,
But it's gonna be fun when we do,
you know,
because then like they're gonna be happy. You're gonna cheer them on. You're gonna pump them up. You know, it's just gonna be a fun experience when it does happen.
yeah, exactly.
That's again, just gotta find the simple parts. But going back to something you said there, you thought it was gonna become a solo activity and kind of be a you thing and whatnot, and it still can be, of course. You know,
Yeah,
on a different schedule and whatnot. You just have to communicate it with them, like, hey, I'm gonna do this now, and then we'll go do it together, at this time.
right.
It still can be that, but it's super important to have those things, like just as a parent, mom or dad, that are for you to dis- disconnect, kind of reset and process everything, to have that time to be alone with the thoughts and everything going on, and to kind of get away from all of it, but in a positive way because it helps you come back better.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And it's actually something that I'm going through randomly enough. I thought I was going through like a midlife crisis here for a hot second because I had this whole like, I don't want to call it an epiphany, but like this realization, I guess. I guess that's the same thing, synonymous. But I was thinking, I was talking to my wife about this. I was like, besides being your husband and their dad, who am I? Like, what do I have for
Yes.
myself? And I kind of like went down this like spiral where it was like, I don't feel like I have anything. I mean, I had beer league softball because the kids, my wife and the kids don't really come. It's in a different city.
Oh,
It's at
that's some good
night.
stuff.
So I had that for a while for myself,
Yeah.
but recently, like as I get older and I'm slower and my arms kind of going dead, I don't have the arm that I pride myself in anymore, and I the speed's dropping, and the kids
But
are
you're
in.
but you're not that same person you were when you did it,
Yeah,
those few years ago. You're a different guy now. You're different. Your
exactly.
body's changed, and that's okay
But it's
if you
just like
enjoy
the
it.
mindset has kind of changed from like I want to be the best out there and I want to compete
Okay.
to now like
Yeah,
the
I've
mindset
been
is
there.
just like don't get hurt. That's it.
Yep.
And so
And
it
so you're
kind of
not even
like
having fun. You're not even having fun because you're too worried about everything else.
yeah, a little bit. So it's like I used to go out there and it's like I want to get this big hit. I want to be in the clutch position with two outs and chasing two. I want to be the hero. And now it's like, how was the game? We lost by 10. You mad about that? No, I could not care less. Like, so it's like that kind of change. So beyond that, it's
Yeah.
like, what's mine? So I've been like searching, like, okay, what can I still do? I used to rock climb. My shoulder's not quite there anymore. I don't know if I can really go rock climbing anymore. So I was like, I haven't fished since I was a kid, but I remember liking
Yeah.
it. Like maybe I'll get into fishing, and that's where this whole like
Definitely.
adventure started. And immediately
Okay.
my son was like, "Oh, that sounds hella good. I'm there with you, Dad. We'll do this together. It'll be our thing." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah.
Yes.
I'm not gonna tell you I
Sweet.
wanted to go alone, but yep,
Because that's going to cause a meltdown and I'm going to pick my battles and not do that. But I think you're hitting on something super important there, is where you're trying to, find yourself. And it's so crazy because this is so commonly talked about amongst like mothers and whatnot. Because often, stereotypically speaking, it's like It's the mom that loses herself and the family and the home and whatever. But we do it too as dads, if not even a little bit harder and further down,
Yeah.
because that's what we're taught, you know, growing up is that like you give your all into your home, you give your all into your partner, significant other, you pour it all into your kids. Like that is your life. That is 100% your life. And it's so uncommon because it's like, well, what if I am that person still? I'm 100% that person, but I'm also I'm also me.
Right. Like I need some space too and some like
Yeah,
respite. So yeah,
exactly.
it's hard. I think back to like the like Leave It to Beaver dads like from the 50s that like their one thing was their job.
Yeah.
And now
And
it's
no
like
one's
20
married to their job
yeah, it's
anymore.
2023 and it's like we don't really like the job is
It's
just a
not that
job. Like
anymore. Like you have to do something you enjoy to a point, you know, depending on your career. Like for me, I'm just finished my bachelor's degree about a month ago, so I'm transitioning into like career jobs utilizing my degree because it's something I studied for, I worked hard for, and something I want to do. Like I want to work in human services.
right.
And so I got my degree in human services.
Nice.
But at the end of the
Congrats.
day, like these are still going to be jobs. Thank you. And they're not going to define who I am. That's just a part of me that I do. Like, yeah, I help people. I help people with, you know, whatever that they're going through, get them services, things like that. You know, once the experience ends with them, then it ends. You know, I impacted them. I did what I was supposed to do and I got paid for it. There's a part of it that's still incredibly genuine because it's what I want to do. But there's part of it that's also like, you know, materialistic. You know, I'm doing this because I'm being paid to be here to do this for you. No one's married to their job anymore. It's 2023. You know, I love my kids, but I have them half the time. So what am I doing with the other part of my time when I'm not with them, when I don't have them?
Yeah,
And it's like even with you, like in even when you're in a relationship or you're married or you know committed, whatever the situation might be, it looks different for everyone. It's 2023. Um, you know, you have the other person that you can talk to and say, hey, you know, I'm going to take this time for me, or I would like to start taking this time for me. You got to communicate that with your significant other. And most of the time, it has to be a two-way street because if you're going to do it for you, you got to make sure she does it too. You know,
for sure. Yep.
and you got to find that balance and all that. But you have to do those things for you because if you're not taking that time for yourself, and this is the point here, if you're not taking that time for yourself, how are you going to show your kids that that's important to take care of themselves
Right.
instead of just pouring into all these other cups and they come back and their cup's empty. It's like, well, my dad was always helping other people, or my dad was always doing all this stuff, but you know, looking back, my dad never took time for himself.
Yeah. Looking back, my dad was quietly exhausted all the time.
He was exhausted all the time. Like, yes, he did a great job raising us. He was a great dad, but you're gonna look back and be like, damn, I could have been so much better. I could have been so much better if I would have just taken the time to go fishing, you know, twice a week for an hour, to lose 2 hours, but the other hours in that week I'm spending with them are gonna be that much better now. I'm enhancing all these other hours by taking away these few hours. It's addition by subtraction,
For sure.
if you will.
Yeah, for sure. And
And
it's
it's
like
just so
that
important.
cup analogy, right? Like you I think you started to touch on it. Like you can't pour into other
Yes.
people's cups if your cup is empty. Same thing with fishing. I can already kind of see it. It's if I take my kids fishing every single time I go, most of my energy is going to be helping them and not fishing
Yep.
myself. And if we're all
Exactly.
learning this new hobby together, like what am I learning? If I get an hour to go do it
Yeah.
by myself, I'm kind of out there figuring stuff out. I'm learning it. And now next time I go with my kids, my cup is full. I can pour into theirs. I can kind of help them
It's
like,
easier.
oh
It's
man,
gonna be
I
easier. It's gonna
figured
be less
this
stressful for
out.
you
Yep. Yep.
because then you're what's gonna happen is if you don't take that time to like know what you're doing, I feel like it's important for any parent, whatever you're doing with your kids, is you should have a basic idea of how to do it or what you're doing, or what you're gonna go do before just going out and doing it because when you get there and then they're going to ask you a bunch of questions because kids love questions.
Oh yeah.
That's their number one form of communication is questions all the freaking time is that's going to lead to frustration. That frustration could lead to yelling. That frustration could be to hating them, a negative interaction, and then them finding an area of resentment. It can just spiral. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And then it
So it's
changes
like,
from fishing with dad is a negative memory,
exactly, and it turns into
and it
turns
had
into that
nothing
negative
to do with
memory. It's
fishing.
like nothing. It's like now I hate fishing, and
Yeah.
I'm 35, and I have really good friends. They all like to fish, but I hate fishing, and it's because I went fishing with my dad one time, and
It was
I
a
hate it. I can't even spend time
disaster.
with my
And
exactly.
yeah.
So like you said, you have to fill your cup before you can pour into any other cups, whether that's your kids, your significant others, your your job, whatever you need to do,
Hmm.
whatever cups you need to pour into, you can't pour into it if yours is empty.
For sure. Yep.
So,
And I don't want to get into like a big COVID rant, but I don't think it helped that
oh
COVID.
no,
I mean, I will say this: COVID did bring us together more and give us
yes,
a lot of time together. Both of us used to work 8 to 5 and rush off to get them to school, and then keep going in different directions. Work all day. 5 o'clock, rush home as fast as we could to get them from after school care. By the time you get home, it's 5:45. You're doing homework for 45 minutes, an hour, because mine are
you're
still
making
little.
dinner
You're
and
making dinner, you're doing baths. Now it's bedtime, and you're starting over the next day.
yeah, you kiss your wife, say
Yeah,
goodnight, love you, go to bed.
I mean that's if you don't fall asleep putting the kids to
That's true. Maybe if you wake up and
bed.
maybe you have some quality partner time, but it's just
Yeah,
it all kind of just gets stuck, and it feels like you don't get to have that time
yeah.
for your partner
So
or for
that's the pro.
yourself.
That's the pro of COVID, if there is a pro. Is it really brought us together? We had a lot more time together. We got to start working remote from home. Both of us are fortunate enough to have gotten to keep that. So now
Oh, that's
we
awesome.
started taking the kids to school every day together. All four of us go.
Oh,
We
that's
go pick
fun.
them up from school together. And it was cool. It was cool for
Oh,
a while, but now like 3 years later, it's like we do everything together.
now it's like, are we codependent now?
It almost kind of feels like it, yeah. So like there will be days that I'm like, hey, I know it's time to pick up the kids, but I'm slammed like at work. I got so much stuff to do still. And my wife, she's great. She's like, oh, that's fine. I'll go get them. No worries. But my kids will immediately like
That's
come through the
awesome.
door and be like, why weren't you at pickup? Where were you? Are you okay? And it's like, I'm fine. I'm
Yeah,
just
now it's
working.
like,
I'm like, well, we missed you.
are
Don't
you
do that
okay?
again. And it's like, you're here right now. How did you miss me on the 8 minute car ride home?
Right?
Like, it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
So
You don't.
it's
I don't need to be there every pickup, or your mom doesn't need to be there every pickup. You go to
yeah,
school, 2/3 of the year. It's okay.
yeah. So now it's gotten to a point where it's like if we don't do everything all together, it's like this like bizarre thing to my kids. Like they're thrown out of whack and they get emotional
Oh
and they're
man,
like,
then that's
but
yeah.
so the whole like fishing thing, even the fishing thing, going back to that, it's like
Oh man.
I
Okay.
say I'm gonna do it for a hobby. My son immediately is like, yeah, let's do it. My daughter is like, well, I want to do it too. And it's like, oh,
Of
okay, yeah, come
course.
on. And when we went back this afternoon, they're like, can mom come? And I'm like, I don't think she wants to come sit there. And she's like,
I
oh, well, if you guys want me to come. And I'm like, just stay here. Like,
don't want
take the reprieve. And the
like
kids are
own it.
like,
Like I am giving you the break.
yeah. And the kids are like, no, you have to come. And she's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll come. I'm not worried about it. And it's like, okay.
It's like you almost just kind of have to start ripping the band-aids off there,
Yeah, yeah,
because I mean it's healthy to because then that shows them like, oh, mom and dad did everything together. I have to be that same way. Like, yeah, they had a
yeah,
good relationship, but like I have to be that same way. So who knows how that can lead and all that fun stuff down the line. So I think it's a part of that's cool. Like, yes, they're so engaged in their family. They care about their family. They want to be together. They love you guys. It shows a lot of love. I think that's where it comes from. It's just like it's what we're used to. We're just used to being together.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
that's our family. And it's like, well, that's everyone, bud. Um, Everyone's kind of been forced to be together the last few years.
Right. And it's just
you know,
it's good. It's just healthy. It's just a healthy thing for humans to have some like independent solo time.
it is.
Even if
You
you're
have
if even
to.
if you're 9 years old, like, and you're playing video games in the other room, like, and a half an hour by yourself, I feel like it teaches you, it trains you to be
Yeah.
comfortable in the silence and be
Hmm.
okay doing nothing by yourself.
100%. Like I'll let my two kids like a lot of the time I want them to play together because I think that's important for the little one to play with her older sister and learn. But
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, the older one doesn't always want to play, or the little one doesn't want to play together. And so sometimes the older one, she just wants to take her tablet and go and lay in her bed and watch her tablet for a bit by herself, door closed. It's like, go ahead,
Yeah.
that's fine, And then they just kind of chill, and then an hour goes by, and then the little one's like, "Sissy,
Yeah. Like, okay, now I'm
where are
ready.
you?" And it's like, okay. Then then they're just so much happier being together at that point.
Yeah, that's almost like
Like,
that
okay,
absence makes
reset.
the heart grow fonder.
It does. And so I think you have to show your kids that, and you have to just kind of have to fight those battles, and you have to be ready for it, whichever parent's going to be on the other end. Like if your wife is going to go do yoga or something,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if yoga's her thing. That's just the first thing that comes to mind. I'm not trying to stereotype that all married women do yoga um, at all, but if that's her thing, and it's like, okay, mom's going, you guys are not going. You guys are gonna stay here with me, or vice versa. Like dad's gonna go. You don't even have to tell him where you're going. It's like
Mm-hmm.
dad's gonna go do something for himself. He's gonna go run errands, or he's gonna go, do this. I think it's almost better to kind of leave it general, let their minds wander, and communicate that ahead of time. Like, okay, I'll tell them after you leave where you went. Um,
Yeah.
you kind of got to deal with it after, deal with the tears, and deal with the pushback after.
Yeah.
Then you
Yes.
come back and they're just, oh, we miss you so much.
That's actually one of the things that I love about our family dynamic is we really make it a point to make sure we heard this advice from like this the most random couple in a sketchy van in Mexico,
Nice, that's the best.
right? We're traveling to like this like weird uh, it was set up through the hotel, but it was just like this unmarked van traveling through Mexico to like a swim hole and like authentic food. All, weird backstory, but this
Love
couple
it.
this couple has their little kid with them. And we're like, wow, you
Okay.
guys are brave to bring your kid on this trip. Like it feels a little sketchy. And they're
Uh
like,
huh.
nah, it's not weird to us. Like, and it's not weird to her because this is how she's been raised. Like, you, when you have kids, you have to remember you run the family. They don't run the family. Like, you had a life before them. They need to adapt into that life that you've already created. And for whatever reason, that stuck with us so solidly.
That's so true,
We still
though.
go back to it even 9 years into having a kid. We're like, you don't run the family. Like, this is our lifestyle. You're going to have to adapt to it. So,
That's
like,
true.
people always say, oh, I love to travel, so I'm never going to have kids. We still travel all the time. We loved traveling
Travel
before
with
the
your kids.
kids. So we just started traveling. My son, I think, took his first flight when he was like 6 months old. My
Hmm.
daughter, when she was like 9 months old. We're flying across the country. They adapt. They'll get used to it.
The kids adapt. I mean, that's their brains. Their brains are meant to adapt. They're
Yep,
humans. I mean, they're young. You mold their minds how you want them to mold.
exactly. So I was
You
playing
know,
softball once a week. My wife was playing soccer once a week, and so that was one of the things that we were like, after we have kids, we're not giving this up. Like, I'm still playing softball, you're still playing soccer weekly, and
yeah.
it's just a non-negotiable. And so
It's just a
fast
balance.
forward,
It's just balance.
yep, fast forward, we're still doing it. She had soccer this morning, and going back to what you said, it's kind of it's an option at this point. Like, do you guys want to go to mom's soccer game? It's okay if you say no because she's going whether we go or
She
not.
she doesn't care.
She doesn't honestly care.
She
Um,
loves you, but she doesn't care if you're there or not.
yeah, she's going to play whether we're there or not. So take it or leave it. And
Right?
sometimes the kids will be like, "Yeah, let's go. Let's watch mom." And Other times they're like, nah, we don't want to go. It's too cold. It's too windy. Whatever.
Feel that.
And
You're
she's
like,
okay
heck,
with
you
it. She's
better
like,
be
whatever. I
there.
don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's
No,
cool.
that's crucial. I mean, I think a lot of people's minds probably went straight to like the physical part of it. It's like, well, I gotta go to the gym. Like for me, like I'm looking at possibly relocating in the next, couple months for work. And, where I'm looking, the places I'm looking at living in the county, I'm like, okay, and if I live in this county or this city within this county, then I have to have a church, I have to have a gym with childcare,
Mm.
and the gym has to have a pool. Like I will not live in this area if it doesn't have this. Um, so I mean, because that's important to me, I have to have that gym that has childcare because then they know that I'm going to the gym for me. They see me taking care of me,
Hmm.
and then they're going to childcare, and then after I pick them up, and then we do something at the gym together, whether it's go and
There you
play
go.
on the courts or kick a ball around or go swimming or something like that. So it's kind of like that 2-in-1, but it's like they see me come and pick them up, I'm dripping sweat. Just got out of the sauna. I like to make it look like I worked out real hard. I don't tell them I went in the sauna, but um, I drop them off for 2 hours sometimes and go and worked out. Does it? Am I thinking like in the very back of my head, like, man, I could be spending these 2 hours with them. We could have gone swimming or this, that, and the other. Yeah, but at the same time, I'm taking care of my body. I'm getting rid of all my negative thoughts. I'm getting rid of that negative energy. I'm getting, my head right. I'm meditating in the sauna for that 20 minutes. I'm doing something hard. I'm pushing my body and all these benefits. Because then when I come out and I pick them up, I'm going to be relaxed. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be in a good headspace.
Hmm.
I'm going to rock and roll the next, however many hours. And it's going to be fun. I'm not going to yell. I'm not going to scream. I'm going to be relaxed. I'm going to be a better dad and be the dad I want to be
Yeah,
because I
exactly.
did that thing. I
Yep.
did that thing. So it's crucial. It's crucial. You got to do that.
Yeah, there's the whole Instagram wine moms and wine thing where like, oh, I had to have 2 glasses of wine because my kids were nuts, and then you have like parents who there's like actual parents who have to take like CBD gummies to
Yeah,
parent their kids. And I could just imagine somebody saying like, "Oh man, you spent 2 hours at the gym," but it's like, "Hey, I'm not taking CBD gummies. I'm not drinking wine just to parent my
right.
kids. Like, I do this so that I don't have to do that. Like,
Yeah, it's
which
like I
one's
don't want to do
worse?"
that. Like I want them to see me like healthy. Like the only supplements they see me take are my, thermogenic fat burners,
Right, right.
my nootropic brain boosters, and my freaking greens powder.
Yeah, exactly. And the beauty of it
That's what
too
they
is
see me
like,
take.
if they ever asked you like, "Oh, you know, what do you do at the gym for this long?" You can tell them exactly what you just said. Like, oh, I do it to push my body, to see what I can do, to take care of
Yeah.
myself because it's healthy. It's a healthy habit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just even more for them. Like, oh, okay, okay. I dig that.
Exactly. And it's funny because like my daughter will like I check her into childcare and she asks me like what I'm going to be doing at the gym that day before we even get to the gym or on our way to the gym. She's like, "Where are you going to be today? Are you going to be upstairs? I'm guessing you're going to be riding a bike, lifting weights, going to the sauna." And then she's telling the person at the childcare where I'm going to be for me, so I don't even have to answer. Um, but I confused her on Saturday because I went to like yesterday. I went to like a synergy class. It was like a yoga Pilates class, and then she was like, I picked her up and she's like, "Oh, how was your bike and lifting weights?" I'm like, "I didn't do that today." She's like, "Huh? What?
What?
You did something different?" And it's just cool. It's really cool to show your kids, to do these things and to take that time for yourself. Like, and they see the benefits of it. They see me being healthier, happier, calmer. Uh, it's more fun for everyone because we're at the gym. So the likelihood that we go swimming right after I work out is about 50 times higher than if we were just going to go to the gym to swim.
Nice. Yep.
So that's super fun. But all right, let's. Wow, it's already been hours. It's been awesome. It's been fun. But for you on your profile, you're a dadvocate. You're a mental health advocate. Take us through
Yes.
what that means, because there's so much stigma around men's mental health. I was working on a piece today, something I'm writing for the podcast. I'm working on the well balanced dad diet. I was looking up all these statistics about suicide. It's a In the world, there's a 1.5 greater chance that a man dies by suicide than a woman. In the United States, it's 3.88 times higher men's to women's suicide rates.
Yeah.
Um, the highest population of men, let's see here, is at 69.68% of suicides in 2020 were by white males.
Hmm.
Yet, yeah, and this is the crazy part that kind of blew my mind. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that. 93% of people that were surveyed by the Americans for Suicide Prevention,
Hmm.
great resource. Their work is legit, but 93% of the people they survey saying suicide can be prevented.
Yeah.
Which, it's like, okay, if you think suicide can be prevented, then why are these numbers astronomical
It's,
for men compared to women?
it's crazy, right?
It's mind-boggling, especially
Yeah.
white males. I know there's a lot of stigma. I'm not gonna. I hope I don't get canceled for this. I won't, because it's an independent podcast, so I can say what I want. But um, it's like the white male has a negative stigma because they're a white male. Like, that comes with issues. So tie all that into men's mental health, being a dadvocate, and everything with that. Like, for you and what you do, and what the things that you share and talk about on your social media.
So I come from a place where I struggle present tense with it still today.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have been to therapy for anxiety, therapy for depression, on medication, um, for both. And it's hard. I fought it for honestly probably over a decade. Um, when my wife and I first met and started dating, I would have these weird angry outbursts, and she would always just kind of be like, "These are so random that like I'm not like afraid of them, but like where do these come from? They're so weird." And
Yeah,
then
she's asking you why. She's like, why?
yeah, and then she became pregnant with our son, and I developed this breathing issue, and we spent a year trying to figure out what it was, and my doctor was like, "It's anxiety." And I was like, "No, it's not." And then she's kind of starting to think back to all these different scenarios that as we were dating, she's like, "Oh, you know what? I think I can trace that back to anxiety. I think he's right." And I'm like, "No, it's not anxiety. I'm super pumped to have a kid." And just kept fighting and fighting. And
Mm-hmm.
after the breathing issue, it was like a swallowing issue. And then it was my eyesight was going blurry. And then it was like weird heart palpitate. And every stop, every exam, every specialist, it would be like, "No, it's anxiety." And it wasn't until my son was born and growing up and we started talking about my dad, who I don't talk to anymore, when he was like, he said something and it sparked this whole like, oh my God, am I just like my dad? Should I give him another chance? And just this spiral.
Mm-hmm.
And just went into this weird, like, mental health state where I just couldn't pull myself out of it. Finally asked for help. Felt like such a sissy la because
Mm-hmm.
that's what the stereotype is, right? Like
That's
guys
the
asking
stereotype.
for
That's
help,
the stigma.
they're
That's the stigma.
they're
It's like, if you ask for
sissies.
help, you're weak.
Yeah, you should be able to just man up and fix it
You're
yourself.
you're a punk AB, dude. You're a punk AB. Like, come on.
Yeah. You have this
You don't
beautiful
have
wife and a great
anxiety.
job and a cute kid that looks just like you. What do you have to be anxious and depressed
And you
about?
have a son too on top of that. Like, you have a son, like
Yeah.
you have your namesake, your family line, like all this, like all this man stuff. All this man stuff.
Yep. Yep. And I just reached a point where I was like, I can't, it's not working. Like I'm trying to fix it by myself. I'm trying to man up, but it's not working.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I just was like, you know what? I'm just gonna like super quietly ask for help through work. Like we had EAP services.
Yeah, that's a great resource. A lot of the employers have that. A lot of employers have that now.
Yeah.
Where it's not really like advertised or posted, but I guarantee you, if you work for anywhere, Lowe's, a bank, or any big retailer, or any job in healthcare,
Mm-hmm.
pretty much I want to say like 75% of jobs have some form of EAP. That's free. It's offered. It's probably posted on a board that you walk by every single day.
Yep.
Um,
Or in your employee handbook somewhere.
it's there. The resource is there. You just like you're saying, you just gotta kind of take it.
Yeah. And that's the
And
thing too, is like I did it so quietly that I could have done it and just not told anybody ever.
mhm,
Um, but I through my job at the time, I got three freebies, an hour long
mhm.
each. Um,
Well, is that like a three freebies like hour long each, like per issue, or just like
yeah, so it was three freebies per 12 months per issue, but I had such a kick ass therapist that she was like, just call them back and change the issue and we'll just keep talking.
yeah, no, that's awesome.
So I ended up
That's awesome.
having 9 sessions.
A lot of therapists are really good like that, where they'll do that
Yeah.
if they actually care about what they're doing. I've had some really great therapists that have done the same thing. So,
Yeah. And it was awesome. Like, you walk in and you're kind of guarded and reserved, and it takes like that first half a session to really like come out
hmm,
and hopefully you trust your person, and you can kind of hopefully develop some kind of, trust and rapport with them. Um,
definitely,
Beauty of it is if you don't feel a connection or any kind of like you don't feel good about it, you can always change.
always
Um,
change,
I
always
I
change.
liked
Don't
my
give it up.
therapist
Change your
exactly.
therapist.
Yep. But I did it like I said, I did it super quietly. No one at work knew. Um, Called a number, never meet that person on the phone ever again. Like I only talk to them so they don't know my history. Like
No,
nothing
they don't know nothing
embarrassing.
about you. Nothing.
So I meet with a therapist. That first session, I'm guarded. I don't really talk a lot. Um, but she's kind of figuring me out because that's her job. She's a professional. She's studied this. Um,
Yeah,
so she knows. She's seen guarded men before. And so she kind of
all the
figures out
time.
the questions to start pulling me out of my shell.
hmm.
And then second session, we dive in and I'm like tearing up at one point because I'm sad. And then I'm just hot in the face and want to walk out mad and kind of go through this gamut of emotions. And then it's like, all right, well, I got one more session, so I'm going to stick with it. Let's see what happens. And that third session, it's just, man, you walk out and it's like, there's a runner's high, there's a workout high. I swear there's like a
Yes,
therapy high.
yes. There is a therapy. I can 100% attest to that. Like I've done a bunch of different forms of therapy. I've done just a normal counselor. I've done a therapist. I've done a psychologist. I've done talk therapy on BetterHelp.com. Hashtag not a sponsor. They should be.
Nice.
Um, but it's there's always that. Once you get to that spot, you come out of it. You feel like you have that runner's high, the
Yeah.
therapy high.
You
That's
you
real.
you come out of a building and you take this deep breath and you go, ah,
And then you
yes.
open your eyes again, and it's like the colors are more colorful.
Legit. Yes. Yep. It's brighter outside. The
It's
air
brighter, it's
smells
more
better.
colorful. Yes, everything. Like all your senses are just like food tastes better, air is brighter,
Yep.
everything's just better
You just
because
like
you
you
got
have that
that shit off your
calm that you
chest.
would after like yoga or meditation. You're just like,
Exactly.
oh,
You got it out. You got all those things that you were bogging you down. You got them out. You got them out. You got them out of your head,
yep.
and now they're not there anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
You talked.
Yeah. And again, like this person's not going to go tell anybody. Like it's
They
literally
can't.
against the law. They will lose
It's
their
literally against the
license.
law.
So,
Like the only thing that they can tell is if you're going to do harm to yourself or someone else, and then they can report it appropriately.
exactly.
But you literally sign a form, and that's all they can do. They can always talk about your. So this is a fun fact about like therapists and whatnot. So they can't talk or say anything about your information. Yet, if a mental health professional is having an issue or having a hard time, like let's say you were being really difficult after 3, 4, 5 sessions, right? And
Hmm.
they were at their wits. They can always go and talk to like their supervisor or someone above them
Hmm.
or even a peer. They can't say your name or any details about you, like specifically about like what you're going through, but they can use generalities and say, hey, I have this client. they are going through this, they're struggling here, I'm having a real hard time with them, very general things, and
Mm-hmm.
they can get, peer-to-peer advice, supervisor to counselor advice from like a more experienced psychologist or whatnot. So, but again, your information's never like, um,
It's not used really. I mean,
it's not you. It's never going to be used against you. If it is, then that therapist deserves to use their license.
yeah. So I just going through the process, having fought it for 10, 12 years, and then going through the process and just coming out feeling so much better. And with this, there was a little bit of regret, not regret for going, but just regret for not going 10 years sooner.
Mm-hmm.
And so that just distinct feeling, it's like it kind of compelled me to just not shut up about it now. And so that's where the mental health dadvocate thing comes, because I didn't have a good relationship with my dad. So when my son was going to be born, all of this really sparked it, like basically lit this anxiety fire.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept arguing, saying like, no, I'm excited to have a son. And my this first therapist was like, that's fine, that's legit, you can be excited, but it can also bring up this,
It
it's
can it
it's
can trigger.
it's bringing up this like father son relationship that you had in the past, whether you're actually
Mm-hmm.
thinking about it or not. Like it's going to bring it to the forefront, and that's what's
Yeah,
sparking it. And
yeah.
so
Subconscious right now until it becomes fully conscious.
yeah, and I think a lot of times we also talk about postpartum. You say the word postpartum, you think of a
You know
mom.
exactly. Everyone knows what it means. Everyone knows what postpartum means.
Right.
It's always moms. Yeah.
And we just, that's a whole other beast. I don't feel like moms get enough postpartum love either, but dads
No, they
get
definitely don't.
zero. Like,
Yeah.
and
I
again,
know. I
not
remember
it's not a
asking
pissing
my,
contest or anything, but I just,
not at all.
nobody talks about it. I didn't even know postpartum was a thing for dads.
It is like looking back. Like I remember asking like my now ex-wife, like after both kids. I would ask her like, especially after the second one, because we probably should have caught it after the first one. I'm not going to share her business or anything, but we should have caught it. And then after the second one, I know it was something that she was worried about. So it was constant like check-ins, like daily throughout the day, like how are you feeling, how are you doing, how you like mentally, how are you doing, kind of thing. A lot of that until like some time went by, and then it kind of just faded and whatnot. But it's like looking back, like for myself, like I was when our first daughter was born, like I was working a job I did not love,
Hmm.
crazy hours. I had zero time off guaranteed to me for the baby being born. I was, you know, it was in the middle of summer, so it was hot. It was just not a good time. And looking back, like I was just so like I hate it. Like there was so much I wish I would have like figured out after that. After the second one, it was a lot better because I knew what to expect. I knew how to feel. But
Hmm.
yeah, no, that postpartum for men, it's maybe we shouldn't call this postpartum, but like it's the same thing. Like that after child, like depression and whatnot is real for both parties.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's not talked about enough too, that like having a kid is, your life is completely different. Like
Completely.
the person you were 5 minutes before the baby arrives, like that person, you still want to keep yourself. You still want to like hang on to who you are as an individual, but like
Yes. Mm.
so much changes.
So quick.
Yeah. And especially like on an emotional level. Like
Hmm.
these freaking Bluey cartoons make me tear up now because,
Oh my gosh, I can't do Disney movies anymore.
yeah, and I'm
I
like,
can't do any animated movie because they all have that really sweet ending, and they all have that like teary moment.
yeah,
And here I am, like choking back tears, watching a freaking movie on Netflix on our family movie night,
yep.
where we just made all this popcorn, and I've been gorging myself with artificial buttery popcorn. That I just it's my weakness. Popcorn's my weakness. But anyways, um, I get it. I get
Yeah,
it.
and the
And
only thing
Bluey
that changed
especially.
was you became a dad.
Yeah. Well, especially when you have a girl. Fun fact, your testosterone drops like 50%,
Oh, interesting.
like when you have a girl. So I don't even know how much mine's dropped having two. Um, but probably like 75%. But like your like just your testosterone that's like being produced
Hmm.
like drops because like these other, I don't want to explain it. I don't want to bore the listeners with all the science stuff, but definitely look it up. But yeah, there's that soft side comes out.
For sure.
That soft side comes out, and you can't hide it. You have to, and it's kind of what I'm hearing from you is like you have to like own up to it at some point.
Hmm.
You can own up to it quietly. You can own up to it loudly. You can plant your flag on Facebook and say you're freaking doing it. And because if that's what you need to do it, freaking do it and get that extra support. Know that there's people that care about you and that are going to support you.
Hmm.
You need to do it quietly and not even tell your, you know, I don't even know if you told your partner at that time that you were doing it or literally no one. You just kind of did it. Um, until you were exploring it and whatnot, that's okay too because you were still doing it.
Yeah,
You did it,
exactly.
and that's so important is to just do it.
Yeah, and again,
Um,
that's the beauty of it is you can do it and not tell anybody. I could have literally not told my wife and taken an hour in the middle of a Tuesday like I did and gone and did it and not told her. And she would have just said, "How was your day?" And I would have said, "Oh, it was great. I did this and this and this," and left that part out. And
went on with your life.
yep. And I
Granted,
think,
eventually you probably would have told
I
her.
mean, I told her
Um,
from the get go, and she's
you
super
know,
supportive. But
of course.
the first time I told my mom, I told my sisters, and second time through, it was like, all right, I'm just going to keep this between my wife and I, and still, same thing. Like, she's supportive. Family didn't even know. They don't need to know. It is what it is. And the thing
Yeah,
too is like I go back to like you you know you're playing sports and you get a sports injury, you're going to go to your doctor. You're going to go through physical rehab. You might get prescribed some medicine for a bad break or whatever. You
true.
can't fix it yourself. You're going to have some injuries that you cannot fix yourself. You have to seek medical attention, and we're so quick to just do it. Yeah, give me an x-ray. Let's figure this out. Yeah, give me the medicine. Let's figure it out. Like, oh, you got to re-break my arm and put it in a splint for 6 months? Screw it. Let's do it. And then I got to do 9 months of
Do it.
rehab after that? Great. Let's do it. Whatever gets me back on the
Fired up.
tennis court, flag football field. But then it comes to our brain. It's like, oh, my brain's not working right. I need some help. No, I'm not doing that. Like,
Yeah, it's like, oh, my heart's broken.
why? Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
why? Why not? Why are you not doing it? That's one of my really big things, like personally, like that I believe it's a really big part of the well balanced dad diet that I'm working on that will release eventually this year. Um, but like you have to, ask yourself why. Why aren't I doing this? Why am I doing this? Why am I not doing this? Why should I do it? Kind of that's in your DNA as a human being is to question. Look at having children. If you don't believe that questioning is part of our DNA as human beings, then you need to spend more time with your kid. Um, because kids will
right.
question literally everything.
God, it's 1,000 questions a day.
Oh my gosh, there comes times where I have to like talk to my 6 year old and my 5 year old. She's almost six. I have to be like, hey, I really appreciate you asking all these questions, but let's let's take a break. Um, because I can
Yeah.
just feel myself getting burnt out on them. And it's like, let's take a break. Let's transition to something else. Why?
Don't ask me any more questions. Why? That's a question.
Go away. Here's your tablet. Go. That's when you throw a screen in front of them, and they're like, okay.
Yeah. Ask
But
Google.
no. So no, you're so right. It's you have to do it. If your brain's broken, your heart's broken. Why not fix it like you would fix any other part of your body? It's
Yeah.
your
These
brain
these
controls the
guys
rest
went
of
to
your body.
school. They went to school for this. They wanted to make their living out of this. Like, they know way more than I do. So I couldn't fix it myself. Like, you trained for this. You fix it. And for me,
Exactly.
they did. I know not everybody's lucky enough. Like, there's loopholes and challenges, or not loopholes, but hula hoops you got to jump through and stuff. But really, just in terms of mental health advocate, it just comes down to like, if you think you might even need the help, nothing is gonna make you look bad just asking the question, asking for a little bit of help. Like I now am so comfortable with this that I started seeing on all these things on ADHD on Instagram. And so I was like, God, do I have ADHD? I think I might. And I asked my
Oh
doctor, like,
man.
hey, can we have a conversation about ADHD? And he was like, yeah, let's get you an assessment. I did the assessment. 10 minutes later, they're like, dude, you don't have ADHD. I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
Fast
So
forward a
that's
year and a
funny because
half.
I did the same thing with my doctor with that,
Yeah,
and they're like, "Oh, you actually have ADD, not ADHD, but ADD,
interesting.
with like a lot of hyper focusing." And it's like I've had it my entire life, but I never got screened for it until like I was in my mid 20s. Um, Definitely changed my life. I'm not medicating for it or anything.
But you've probably learned some strategies on how to like,
I learned strategies like how to do it. I've learned how to like catch myself because especially when it comes to work, I'll like hyper focus on one project,
mm-hmm,
and but then I'll have four projects assigned to me. I'll hyper focus on one and do beautiful A++++ work, and then the other three are B minus C pluses, good enough.
good enough. Yeah.
Um, so like I know these, now I know more about me. I know more about me as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important. That's why we ask these questions to begin with.
Yeah.
You know,
Like it's literally getting like answers to a test for free. All you have to do is
exactly.
ask for them. And people are like, no, I'm not gonna. I thought I was lazy for a minute. And my wife was like, I feel like this is borderline depression. And I thought that too. And I was like, no, no, no. Honestly, I think I'm just lazy. And she's like, have a conversation with your doctor. And I'm like, whatever, okay. So I'm like, hey doc, let's talk. Like I'm trying to figure out if I'm lazy or depressed. And he's like, let's get you a screening.
Yeah.
And I go to the screening and I'm like, she's like, okay, what's one example? And I'm like, this. And she's like, that's depression. And I'm like, well, okay, here's the second example. And she's like, yeah, that's depression. And I'm like, no shit. Okay. Well, what about this? And she's like, oh, yeah, that's definitely depression. And I'm like,
Not meaning
oh,
to laugh.
no, I mean, it's all good. Like, that's how comfortable I am with it now. It's like, I can totally laugh too. And it's like, I would have just continuing on, thinking, like, God, I'm such a lazy piece of crap. Like,
So did you have to go home and tell your wife that you were right?
yeah, I mean, she was like, how'd the screening go? And I was like, oh, they very, very embarrassingly quickly said, it's depression.
Yeah,
And she didn't even flinch. She's like, so what are we going to do about it? And I'm like, oh, I'm going to start this 8 week intensive program next
that's
Friday.
so
And
cool.
she's like, dope.
That's so cool, and that's so important. I feel like if any dads out there that are in a that are partnered, married, whatever the committed partnership you have, um, your partner wants to be that person for you.
Mm-hmm.
They signed up to be that person. They signed up to be there for you through thick and thin, sickness and health. And this is a sickness, and it's something that they need to support you through. They want to support you through it. They can't support you through something that they don't know about.
Mm-hmm.
They can't support you if you're not supporting yourself and doing it. And if you're not doing it for you, do it for to be a better partner. Do it to be a better parent. Do it to be a better friend, a better whatever. Attach it to something that's meaningful to you. Because a lot of men won't do it just solely for themselves. You said yours didn't happen till after your son was born
Mm-hmm.
or leading up to when you were going to be a dad. All that other time passed, it didn't happen up until then. You did it, you attached it to being a better dad because you didn't want to be anything like, not anything like your dad, but in an essence, that's kind of what I'm getting at because you
Oh,
wanted
yeah,
to be different,
100%. Yeah.
you know? So you attached it to something that was meaningful and you cared about.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not going to do it for you, because you weren't going to do it for you,
No.
you probably weren't going to do it for your wife. Um, Maybe eventually you would have, but time frame would have been a lot different. Probably would have taken a few fights and some threats of divorce to get you there.
Yeah, I was honestly
But
thinking
then
like
it
couples counseling, it comes out, and then it's like,
but then it
oh.
wasn't then it wouldn't have been genuine because you're forced to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Your approach was you did it on your terms when you were ready. You did it quietly and you did it your way. and you did it genuinely. And that's what's so important. To find what works for you and to do it in a way that will work for you. Um, the way I do it's different. The way you did it's different. The way any of our listeners do is going to be different. But the one thing that it comes down to, I feel, is that you know what you need to do. If you feel like you need to talk to someone, you feel like you need to get that help, you feel like you need to call the national, crisis line, you feel like you need to go talk to your mom, your dad, your significant other, whoever, you have that feeling, you should probably listen to it and just do it.
Yeah.
Because whoever on the other side of the phone, if they called you and they asked for the same thing, you would hands down drop whatever you're doing and be there for them.
Mm-hmm. That's
Because
super
guess
important
what?
point.
They're going to be there for you too. They're going to be there the same for you as you're there for them, or that they know you will be there for them. You know, go join a dad group on Facebook. Come over to either of our Instagrams. Hit us up. We'll talk to you. There's these people out there that we'll talk to, that will be there for you. Go on Twitch. I stream on Twitch, and this is what I do on Twitch. I talk and have these conversations. It's just a space for people to, not be judged and just to come and chat and talk it up in. So, there's the resources out there, but find what's going to work for you. Do it on your terms. And one of Nick's, big things here is don't overthink it. You don't have to overthink it, because the more you overthink it, the less likely you're going to do it. Just take that first little small step, call that number, and go from there, because life changing things can happen, you know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you have to remember too, it's not your fault. And I don't mean that in like the Goodwill Hunting, like I'm going to hug you 7 times and say, it's not your fault. It's not your fault until we all start crying. It's literally like, it's no different than your blood pressure is too low. Like maybe you did something to make your blood pressure too low, but it could be a genetic thing. It's not your fault. There's nothing you could have done.
Yeah.
You find out from your doctor, you take a medication, you fix it. Or you work in more workouts and you fix it. High blood pressure, uh, I don't know. I'm trying to think of other non-blood
Whatever it is,
things. The
whatever it is, high levels of stress,
yeah,
cortisol's too high.
yeah. Your hair turns
Um,
gray. That's not your fault. You can't change that.
no,
It's the same as
you're starting to develop diabetes or whatever. It could be genetic,
yeah, exactly. Like
it's not your fault.
I'm German and Portuguese, so I have a ton of moles on my body. Like it's not my fault. Like I
Not your
can't
fault.
change that. It's the same thing with
No.
anxiety. Like there's some stuff
Yeah.
happening up here. It's not my fault, but now we know some strategies. We figured it out. And the one of the most beautiful things about this too is now my daughter's starting to show a little bit of anxiety. And because I went through all this therapy and learned all the strategies for myself, now I can seamlessly teach her these things. And
Mm.
so when she starts getting anxious, I can spot it immediately. I can just start talking her off the ledge with strategies that I know work because I've used them on
Hmm.
myself. And then I'll talk,
And she's half you.
yeah,
She's half you.
and I'll talk to therapists and they're like, that's awesome. Like, that's perfect. You nailed it. You
And then she knows that you went, to therapy, you got help. And now if she ever feels like, maybe the strategies that dad are giving me maybe aren't for me, she's
mm-hmm,
100% comfortable coming to you and saying, hey, dad, I don't think this stuff's working for me. Can you schedule me an appointment to meet with a therapist? And she's going to have no shame.
mm-hmm.
She's going to be okay with it because it's normalized. It's
Yeah. Oh, I
normalized. Your
talk about it
son, same
openly
thing.
all the time.
Yeah, your son, same thing. And even their friends, they're gonna be like, oh, you know, it's whoever's dad, Nick, he knows he he's okay talking about this stuff. Maybe I can talk to him, and I can't really talk to my dad, but maybe I can talk to your dad, and
Mm-hmm.
your kids can be like, yeah, come talk to my dad. He's cool with it. Um, he's smart. He can help you. And then you play a role. You talk to their parents, and maybe get it just becomes more normalized. It's all about talking about it. Just
Yep.
gotta talk about it.
Yep. I will straight up say, sorry, I can't. I have a therapy session. And sometimes I get gun shy about saying the word therapy, so I switch it up and say counseling. I have a counseling session. I can't.
Counseling's way more manly.
Yeah, totes.
Gotta go to counseling. Gotta go counsel with my
Yep.
counselor. Um, but no, therapy. It's great. Talk therapy. It's amazing, and there's so many resources out there now. There's so many ways to go about it. Now
Yep.
that the public health emergency is kind of over, it's ending. A lot of it ends in May. That's when it's like all over, quote
Mm-hmm.
unquote over. Um, it comes back and you can, more in person sessions. These specialized clinics are starting to open back up. Like here, we have a bereavement specialist. A
Mm-hmm.
whole unit that works strictly for bereavement, and all these different units at these different therapy centers and counseling centers and whatnot, these outpatient centers that all have these different specified things that are now starting to come back, or they're gaining steam, they're gaining momentum, and it's becoming more and more normalized, but not nearly enough when it comes to men, dads, things like that,
Yeah.
because there's these generational stigmas that are still carrying over, that are it's going to take a lot for them to end, but um it's worth it. It takes dads of sons like yourself, helping normalize it among him and his friends, and the kids that the boys that I interact with. That sounds weird, but like coaching and
Mm-hmm.
these extracurricular activities that I volunteer with at church and whatnot. Being open about it, talking about it, just being that person, whether it's at work or someone you're coaching or among these groups that you're in, you interact with constantly, being that person that's open about it, that can talk about it, and just being that example, because people will see, oh, hey, that's cool. He's another dad that's talking about it. I need to do that.
Yep.
Maybe I don't want to be like him, but I know his story and I can see what he's doing, and now I can do the same for myself, and I have an idea of where to start. So
Yeah.
that's it's powerful stuff. Your story can easily become the blueprint for someone else. How you overcome, and it's a deep quote. I wish I could find it. I wish I had it ready, but it's a really good quote. It's like, your story is going to become someone else's like roadmap for how they get through
Hmm.
like what they go through. So it's
Yeah. I dig that.
definitely talk about it. So, all right, Nick, is there anything that you want to end with here? Before you wrap us up, give us your closing thoughts on all the things we talked about today. I have to know, does pineapple go on pizza?
I feel like that is a question that usually gets either a definitive hell yes or a definitive hell no. There's really no one in the middle.
Oh, we've had one person in the middle.
I'm also a middle guy. Like if that's
Okay.
listen, I'll say this: if there's pepperoni pizza next to pineapple pizza, I'm taking the pepperoni. I like it better. If you order a pineapple, a Hawaiian style pizza, and that's the only pizza, I'm eating the pizza.
Yeah, I'm not touching that pizza. I'm going back up to the counter. I'm ordering my own personal pan pizza. Um,
That's fair.
but yeah, man, wrap us up here. Between all these things that we talked about today, being there for your kids, being present, you know, talking, finding support, not overthinking, being a dad, doing these simple things. I can definitely see why Bluey's dad wants to be you. But what's like this ending message for all of our listeners out there? One thing that one big passion point to end us with.
God, let's just keep driving that home. Just don't overthink how to be there for your kid. Just be there for your kid. Literally just being there for your kid is the easiest base level ground floor to do. Just be there. And then if you really, really want to be there, just do things with them, talk to them openly. Um, the next tier after that is getting yourself help, finding out who you are and finding out how you can fix yourself and be better. And that will definitively make them better. But yeah, just don't overthink it and just literally be there. Borderline base level, be there.
Be there. I love it. I love it. All right, listeners. Well, Nick, thank you so much for being on tonight. This has been fun. It was great having you. Lots of great stuff, we talked about here today. And so definitely just be there, show up, and don't overthink it. It's not as hard as it's made out to be.
Oh,
Don't overthink it. And if you want to find Nick, you can find him over on Instagram at DADDINGGREATLY. Find Nick over there. You can message him, talk to him, hit him up, follow him, support him over there. Um, Obviously, he's a great dude, or he wouldn't be here tonight. So, thank you again, man. Definitely appreciate it. And to all our listeners, thanks for listening. Make sure you share this with a friend, share it with a dad that you love and care about. Share it with your neighbor, share it with a coworker. Listen to it on your way to work again tomorrow in your morning carpool. And we'll talk to you next week.